Storm threats linger through the night. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is tracking when this weather maker will move out. Demands for a fix to the squeegee crisis continues. Fox 45 News has an exclusive one-on-one sit-down with Baltimore City's presumptive next state's attorney, Ivan Bates. And our team questions what would be his solution. A push to transition to electric cars took center stage in the debate for governor. Fox 45 News talks with drivers about both sides of the debate.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We're taking a live look around the area, and it is just a misty, nasty day outside. On the top left, the Chevy Storm Tracker, and that's the Bay Bridge on the right side of your screen.
You're seeing the Inner Harbor on the bottom left and the traffic circle in Towson on the bottom right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Let's check in right now with Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers to find out exactly how long this wet weather sticks around. Jonathan?
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain pretty much all day long, on and off, Kai and Mary. And the not so great news is actually some of that sunshine that you saw in some of the pictures coming out of the Chevy Storm Tracker. With some of this rain, that's actually helped to stabilize the atmosphere. Edgemere all the way up to Edgewood and Bel Air, down to Annapolis and Arnold. But if you can get a little bit of sun, you can see what happens here out to our west. Look at these storms beginning to fire on the future scan at about 4:30 p.m. Frederick, and then pushing toward Westminster again. If we could keep that sun at a minimum by about 7, 8 o'clock, those storms kind of diminish and fall apart. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that, again, we don't see a whole lot more sunshine. But some of those storms, especially west, where there's been a little more predominant sun that's come out a little bit earlier, perhaps could have some stronger cells, Frederick and Carroll County especially. And then as we head into the overnight hours, beginning to push east and out, that's a cold front. I'm going to let you know how much chillier it's going to get behind this thing, and if we could have some flakes in the forecast next week. That's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app to your smartphone and use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Go to your app store, search WBFF to get started.
We have breaking news right now. 3 people have been shot in Cherry Hill, that's in South Baltimore, and you're looking live at the scene. It happened near the shopping complex next to Carter Woodson Elementary. Baltimore police say around 1:30 this afternoon, they found a 23-year-old man who'd been shot in both legs. 2 other people who were shot took themselves to the hospital. Police say all are expected to survive. Right now, though, there's no word on suspects or what led to the shooting. Overnight, a 27-year-old man was killed in West Baltimore. He's now one of 264 people killed this year. At least 577 people have been shot and survived.
Baltimore police say they've arrested 38-year-old Devin Jenkins of Owings Mills for shooting a 17-year-old. The shooting happened back in April on Greenmount Avenue near Biddle Street. Jenkins faces an attempted murder charge and life in prison if convicted.
Also breaking right now, a 15-year-old has been arrested for a Columbia murder last week. Police responded to an apartment complex off Hickory Ridge Road around 8 o'clock on Friday. At the scene, they say they found 36-year-old Rocky Miguel Jones Oniaka. He was shot in the parking lot. Investigators say the 15-year-old's family had been involved in some kind of dispute with the victim leading up to the shooting. The 15-year-old is now being charged as an adult, but so far has not been identified.
First on Fox, with no one else on the ballot, Ivan Bates is expected to become Baltimore's next city-state's attorney after the November election. In an exclusive sit-down interview, Bates spoke with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost about a wide range of topics. Mackenzie joins us now live. And Mackenzie, you asked Mr. Bates about how he's going to handle the squeegee kids. What did he have to say?
Yeah, Mary, we talked about a lot of different topics, but, you know, we spent a good portion of this conversation talking about the squeegee kids because we know this is a big concern for a lot of people in this city. And Mr. Bates says that he does have his own plan to handle this situation. But we know that Mayor Brandon Scott says right now he does not want to see these kids cleared from the corners. But Mr. Bates says he sees this very differently and says the current laws on the books right now should be enforced.
They can't be there. It's not safe for the squeegee workers. It's not safe for the citizens. And that's why, I think so many of us are looking at the mayor and the mayor's office to do that. Once again, my job is to enforce the law. Stepping off that sidewalk, going in and out of traffic is illegal. And as far as I'm concerned, we cannot do that.
Mayor Brandon Scott says that squeegeeing is a form of protected free speech because he says that's considered the same as panhandling, and that's a decision made by the city's law department. I asked Bates if he sees it the same way. Does that mean you disagree with the mayor's law department's interpretation of the law, that what they're doing is protected free speech because they say that that's panhandling?
I understand, however, on the law, I disagree. You know, one of the things when I look at the law and I read the Supreme Court case and I recognize you have to look at the facts and apply them differently. To me, there's a difference of panhandling, holding a sign very quietly in an area, not going in and out of traffic. Right. Going in and out of traffic is an action. Therefore, I believe that action is illegal. I've done the legal research from my standpoint, and I feel good about where we are. I do recognize there's some questions about issuing citations underneath of 18. You know, I get that. But I still think there are a number of ways we can still enforce the law because at the end of the day, we have to hold people accountable.
Now, Bates says that he's waiting to see what comes out of the Mayor Squeegee Collaborative. He says he does have someone involved in that process, but this is clearly a situation and an issue where the mayor and Bates do not see eye to eye. We'll have to wait and see those recommendations from the Squeegee Collaborative. But we also know that unless the mayor changes his point of view and his plan on this and tells the police commissioner to start enforcing those laws, there's not much Bates could do in that position, in his position as the next state's attorney. You can see much more of our conversation, including where he stands on guns and prosecution policies, coming up tonight at 10. For now, live in Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. And that does bring us to our question of the day. What should Ivan Bates' priority be as he prepares to take office? Gun violence, squeegee kids, cracking down on repeat offenders, or something else? So far, 65% of those who voted say squeegee kids, 24% say gun violence, and 11% say other. We'd like to hear from you. Go to foxbaltimore.com to weigh in. We'll check back in on the results throughout our newscast. The county's under pressure. It's been 6 weeks since a 14-year-old high school football player was gunned down after his game in Baltimore County, and so far no arrests have been made.
And police are now asking for the public's help in solving this case. Alexa Ashwell is live with what we know. Alexa.
Yeah, Kai, Mary, Baltimore County Police believe there is cell phone footage that may have captured the events leading up to or this homicide, and they're asking anyone with any footage to please come forward and turn that in. 14-year-old Travis Slaughter was a freshman football player at Milford Mill Academy in Baltimore County. He was shot and killed less than a half mile from the school near the intersection of Washington Avenue and Liberty Road following a Friday night football game back on September 2nd. Another juvenile was also shot but survived. Now, two big questions that remain. Who did this and why? A few weeks ago, a close family friend said detectives hinted this may have been a random act of violence. Today, the department told me right now they can't confirm that information. Police and the family desperate for answers.
He was so excited about going to high school. He was always very fun, loving and outgoing, just a wonderful spirit. It's very disheartening. To be honest, words can't sum up the way that I feel about this situation.
The family has been pushing to rename the intersection Travis Way as a means to keep both his memory and this case alive. As for this investigation, police again asking for anyone with any cell phone video that may have captured the events leading up to or the homicide to please turn that in to police. Metro Crime Stoppers is offering a $2,000 reward in this case. Reporting live, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
From the live center right now, a jury rules today in the case of Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz. Maxine Stryker joins us live right now with the outcome. Maxine?
Well, Kai, that jury unanimously recommended Cruz be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the February 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, which killed 17 people, including 14 students and 3 school staff members. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours over 2 days, bringing the 3-month trial to an end. Cruz avoided the death penalty, a decision that left many families of the victims in shock and tears today. Here's some reaction from Father Tony Montalto and Fred Gutenberg, who both lost their children in the shooting.
Today's ruling was yet another gut punch for so many of us who devastatingly lost our loved ones on that tragic Valentine's Day at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. 17 beautiful lives were cut short by murder. Heinous, pre-planned, torturous murder. And the monster that killed them gets to live another day.
We are all in this position now of doing the work that we do around this country to keep this from happening to another family. And this decision today only makes it more likely that the next mass shooting will be attempted.
Well, under Florida law, a death sentence requires a unanimous vote on at least one count. And while the jury found there were aggravating factors to warrant the death penalty, they also found mitigating factors and couldn't agree that they were outweighed. The judge will now formally issue that life sentence on November 1st. Mary?
Maxine, thank you. And now to a major point of contention during last night's debate in the race for governor, the future of electric cars in Maryland. While Democratic candidate Wes Moore says he's for transitioning toward electric, Republican Dan Cox wants to pump the brakes. Today, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on their heated back and forth, as well as reaction from some drivers out there. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, the move to electric got mixed reviews from Maryland drivers that we spoke with today. And although environmentalists say it's an important step to combating climate change, they also say that the road ahead would be a bumpy one. The two candidates competing to be Maryland's next governor clashing during their first and likely final debate.
Frankly, I'm standing on stage right now with an extremist election denier.
This is outrageous and ridiculous. We are bigger than middle school name calling, sir.
Among the topics creating tension, transforming Maryland's transportation industry.
That includes things like being able to add the electrification of the grid for electric vehicles. That means adding mass transit options. This is Maryland's time to lead on this.
Cox firing back, claiming Moore doesn't just want to embrace electric, he wants to mandate it.
We have a 2035 plan that he supports to tie us similarly to California, which has a plan to ban gasoline cars. That's a problem. It's not going to work for our small businesses.
I think it's ridiculous.
Molly Green says it wouldn't work for her either.
I don't think we should be mandated to do anything and drive what we want to drive.
Beyond the feeling of government overreach, drivers we spoke with say even if they wanted to switch to electric, the cost alone is driving them in a different direction.
I just bought this less than a year ago, and the price of gas back then was really high. So I considered buying it, but the cost was about $10,000 to $15,000 or $20,000 more.
Even hybrid is more expensive. I would do hybrid, but more expensive to buy.
According to Kelley Blue Book estimates, the average price of an electric car, $66,000. Another roadblock, ramping up production and revamping the automotive workforce. Charging stations are also limited and sometimes unreliable. However,
now 2035 is a long way away. I mean, today's 15-year-old will be 28 years old that year. And you can see how quickly electrical vehicle technology is moving.
Environmental and economic experts we sat down with say the challenges ahead don't mean that the shift won't be worth it in the long run.
That's our future. Electric vehicles are our future.
If we make that transition along with continuing to reduce emissions from the electric power sector, then we could really end up with some vast environmental benefits.
Meanwhile, back on the debate stage, Wes Moore's campaign clarifying his comments to Fox 45 News Thursday, sending a statement that reads in part, quote, "No, Wes Moore does not have a plan to mandate electric vehicles for Marylanders." Going on to say Moore believes we must aggressively combat the crippling effects of climate change. One of the ways he plans to do so, incentivizing electrification of vehicles. Now, a federal incentive that's already in place that anyone can take advantage of. If you buy a new electric car, it's a $7,500 tax credit. And if you buy a used electric car, it's a $4,000 tax credit. Reporting live in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. After months of reports and demands, bacteria levels remain high in the Back River. Why that could lead to more changes at the state's largest wastewater treatment plant.
I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington, where we've just learned billions of dollars in pandemic relief given away fraudulently has been forgiven. The details coming up.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
We're following three headlines involving former President Donald Trump.
First, an employee of former President Trump has told the FBI the former president directed boxes to be moved at Mar-a-Lago before it was searched. That's from a Washington Post report, which cited people familiar with the investigation. The FBI seized thousands of documents, including 100 marked classified, when it conducted a search in August.
The Supreme Court has rejected Trump's plea to step into the legal fight over the FBI search of his Florida estate. The justices did not otherwise comment in turning away Trump's emergency appeal. Trump had pressed the court on an issue relating to classified documents seized in the search of Mar-a-Lago.
And a live look at the U.S. Capitol, where the committee investigating the January 6 riots has concluded its case today. The committee voting just moments ago to subpoena the former president. The lawmaker saying President Trump knew the risk of violence directed at the Capitol and has to answer for the attack. Congressman Adam Schiff also says the White House knew about intelligence indicating certain people traveling to Washington were making plans to attack the Capitol. The committee aired a clip of General Mark Milley describing a call with Deputy Secretary David Norquist.
So during these calls, I only remember it in hindsight because he was almost like clairvoyant. Norquist says during one of these calls, the greatest threat is a direct assault on the Capitol. I'll never forget it.
Well, Schiff says the intelligence indicated multiple online users were targeting members of Congress. A consumer alert now. Social Security recipients are going to get their largest cost of living increase since 1981 next year. Social Security Administration leaders say payments will grow by 8.7% in 2023. That spike means recipients will get more than $140 extra a month. Last year, beneficiaries saw a 5.9% raise.
The number of Americans applying for unemployment rose slightly last week, but still historically low despite decades-high inflation. Now, jobless claims rose to 228,000, according to the Labor Department. The four-week average also ticked up 211,500. Experts say the job market is still the healthiest part of the economy after inflation accelerated in September to 8.2%. And we're taking a live look right now from the Chevy Storm Tracker on the top side of the inner loop of the Beltway, Mary. So I guess we're Parkville, Towson area,
yes,
roughly some thereabouts, as it were. And the roads don't look that bad out there, but it does look like rush hour traffic.
And I think we're about to get maybe round 2 of this storm. We had it this morning. It was kind of dreary and depressing most of the day.
It is. We need some sun.
We need some sun, but not yet. Jonathan's here with the very latest.
I know driving my kids to school this morning was not that easy. Yeah. And then coming to work, there was another little round that came through, which we were kind of hoping would keep round 3 actually from developing. But for now, we've had some luck. But let's see what happens a little bit later on. We'll show you the computer models here in a second. Now, you see the rain. That's at round 2 I was talking about, that kind of midday batch of showers that now continues to move east during the early to mid-afternoon across the Bay Bridge. There's some heavier showers here all the way up to about Perryville and Port Deposit, rising sun in Cecil County. And there's the beginnings of round 3 right here around Hagerstown, Winchester up to Frederick. This is actually with the weather maker, our cold front that is moving closer and closer. We're going to go ahead and put on the national mode of the radar. We could pop that up there, show you actually what's happening kind of on a wider scope. And you see there, it's a little better picture of it, that last band of rain. And behind that, there's some showers up towards Chicago and Detroit. Those will miss us. So that's the good news. This is the last round that's going to come at us. But with this, there is at least a marginal or 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather that comes through. Heavy rain, again, maybe some downpours, maybe some gusty winds. And there is an outside chance of an isolated tornado. It's not out of the question, but I think the gusty winds and the heavy rain, the biggest potential, if we get some of those breaks of sunshine continuing, kind of sparking up the atmosphere, especially north and west. They've been in the sun longer. So as this front is pushing in, that's our best risk of some of those storms. That front does come through overnight tonight. That puts the end to that severe weather risk. And for tomorrow, the weather maker moves east. It's drier, a slight bit cooler, and less humid. Yes, today it does feel kind of muggy. You see that hazy sunshine trying to break out. That's that what we'd call self-destruct sunshine, if you will, as that front moves in and that potential of showers and storms re-erupts. We're adding some instability to the atmosphere, if you will, with this. 69 right now, winds out of the south at 7. With that dew point at 66, that's a measure of moisture in the air. It is feeling kind of sticky once again. Temperature at 70. There's that warmer stuff up toward Westminster and Frederick, where the sun's been out a little bit longer. We've been kind of socked in with the clouds for the rest of us, so temperatures are generally in the mid and upper 60s. This is a cooler, drier air. Cleveland to Columbus, that's the stuff we get to look forward to a little more tomorrow. Carl, now out in the southern portion of the Caribbean. Thankfully, that's heading south. And these folks in Mexico, they could be dealing with a lot of rain out of it. So we're going to be keeping tabs on that. And then there's another 20% chance of development that's way out there in eastern portions of the Atlantic. But it does not look like it's any threat to our neck of the woods or to the United States over the next at least 5 to 10 days. Now, through about 6:30, 7 o'clock, notice that round of storms north and west around Westminster, Frederick. It dissipates, and then it's just kind of on and off showers through about 11 o'clock midnight tonight. That then tapers off as we head through about 5 to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. But look at these temperatures settling down quickly into the 40s. So a big slug of drier and somewhat cooler air coming for tomorrow. Recovery nice tomorrow afternoon, 69, 73 Saturday, 71 Sunday. Could see a shower there for the away Ravens game. We're going to have some Ravens parties here back in town. On Monday, few showers, 65. Big cool down into the 50s early next week, and maybe even a sprinkle or wet flake north and west on Tuesday.
A 13-year-old robbed right outside his school. What his family is saying about this scary incident. But first, the dispute between a homeless encampment and the JFX Farmers Market is over, but questions remain. Why a homeless advocate says more needs to be done to protect some of the city's most vulnerable.
It's not right. The farmers market, when they finish, they go home. We don't have a home.
One gentleman came, he ripped out all the cords, doing business, not provoked, nothing going on. We're just going around doing our business. Another guy came into this space and threatened me.
Well, vendors at the farmers market under the JFX have come into conflict with a homeless encampment over the past few weeks. While that situation seemed to be resolved, many questions remain as to where those living under the bridge are supposed to go. Patrice Sanders speaks with one activist about what's next.
The Baltimore Farmers Market is held every weekend under the JFX. In recent weeks, vendors have been met by a homeless encampment that is set up in that same location. The city has ordered the encampment to be moved, but those living in those tents are now questioning what's next for them. Jason Rodriguez with People Empowered by the Struggle says that the groups have always been there and shared space, but options for going to other places are limited.
I think what's different this time is that this group of individuals that are under there tend to be the ones that are dealing with agencies that don't seem to be managed 100% properly, code blue shelters that tend to have some issues in reference to just the quality of care that's being provided by the code blue shelters. So for many of them, they've been in and out of many of these different agencies and services, but the services have been inadequate, poor, unsafe in many cases, and the conditions many times are deplorable. So they refuse to continue to deal with deplorable conditions and are looking for a better option from the city.
What would they like to see from the city, and has any help from the city been forthcoming?
The city offered numerous offers in reference to shelter, including providing, because what it was for some of them, they needed to have shelter without restrictions. Some of them worked, and many times the Code Blue shelters and many of the programs require you to be in by a certain time, or else you don't get a bed for the night. So there were restrictions that wanted to be lifted. The city was willing to give concessions.
He says that the best outcome is housing for the homeless. They presented a tiny home village plan to the city, saying that a permanent home is what is needed the most. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Maryland's candidates for governor took the stage for their one and only debate last night. A political analyst joins us live after the break to look at what we heard. And taking a live look from our Chevy Storm Tracker, we're following a weather maker moving through our area. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers breaking down what you can expect in your neighborhood. An update now on Baltimore's embattled Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Yeah, conditions have improved inside the plant in recent months, but a new proposal would keep state environmental officials at the city-owned facility for longer than first planned.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live with the very latest about what's going on there. Amy?
Yeah, Mary Kai, the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant is the largest of its kind here in the state of Maryland. And ever since the end of March, you may remember, Maryland Environmental Service officials have had boots on the ground at this city-owned facility working to get it back into compliance.
Regardless of the forecast,
the rain, the weather's not going to stop the bacteria.
Advocates for the health of Back River in eastern Baltimore County continue to track the data.
We are going to collect samples, just as we have been for the past few months, just keeping an eye on things.
The Back River Restoration Committee taking another round of water samples today, just a few weeks after getting a tour inside the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant, telling Fox 45 News progress and improvements were noticeable.
We didn't see any of that brown, murky stuff that we were seeing inside the pipes before. So those are all promising signs, but the plant is still out of compliance as a whole. So there's still a lot wrong there. There's still so much that needs to be done and repaired.
After June, July, and August, 3 months of compliance with the plant's discharge into Back River. State oversight at the facility could technically be over, but according to the Maryland Department of the Environment, the state and Baltimore City have agreed to an amendment which would allow the Maryland Environmental Service to stay on site, helping to maintain and operate the plant for a few more months.
I think that's fantastic. That's what we've been hoping all along. We want to make sure that there's accountability. If the state leaves, we all know what's going to happen. It's very likely that the plant's going to go back into the same disrepair that it was in previously.
But the Back River Restoration Committee says some of its recent water samples have detected elevated bacteria upriver from the wastewater plant. Right now, no clarity on the source of the problem.
If it's not the plant, that's great. We don't want it to be the plant. We're happy that the plant's in compliance as far as the effluent levels, but there's still problems in the river that need to be addressed, and there's really no talk with that. So we're still sampling, and we're still posting it. We're still sharing it with the community.
Now, Baltimore City's Board of Estimates is expected to consider and take up action on this agreement for extending MES workers' presence at the facility at their meeting next Wednesday. It would keep those workers at the plant in Dundalk until December 31st. Reporting live, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
He's a phony. There are so many things in his book that are completely false. If you look at the book, he claims he was raised in Baltimore City, but, sir, you weren't there until you were 34.
We're watching a perfect indication as to why Governor Hogan called you unfit to lead. We're watching a perfect indication as to why Governor Hogan has said, not only will I not support Delegate Cox, I won't even give him a tour of the governor's office.
Well, the two candidates for Maryland governor, Republican Dan Cox and Democrat Wes Moore, squaring off in a debate last night. It was the first time voters got a chance to hear the two debate, and likely the only debate ahead of next month's midterm election. To help us debrief what we heard last night is political analyst John Dede. John, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let's begin with your takeaway from last night's debate. How do you think the candidates did?
I think the candidates for their own cluster of voters did quite well. Dan Cox did his thing talking about freedom and rights and what he would do as governor. And Wes Moore was coming off as more moderate, talking about education and the issues that he's strong on, of talking about rebuilding Baltimore. So I really think that both of the candidates, they played well to their base, but they didn't actually try to get bigger fish, those independent, undecided voters.
John, Wes Moore is in the lead. Did Dan Cox do anything to appeal to those voters who don't really see him as a candidate at this point? And I'm not just talking about Democrats, I mean Republicans as well.
I don't think Dan Cox did anything to bring in new voters or to get people to look at him differently, because even when he tried to make an attempt to talk about being a civil rights attorney and things like this, constitutional expert, all that sounded great until Wes Moore would then hammer back, well, you tried to impeach Governor Hogan and you have an extreme position on a woman's right to choose and things like that. And that's one of the things in these debates. Every time he tried to make a point saying, I'm not a crazy, I'm a moderate, I'm normal Republican, Moore would just hit him right back with various things he has said and done.
And, Judd, do you think that there are a lot of undecided voters out there? I mean, these candidates couldn't be more different.
I don't really think there's a lot of undecided voters that could tilt this race, because both of them are really very opposite. You have Dan Cox, that is very far on the right, supported the actions on January 6th, organized a bus trip to go down there and things like that. And, was very upset with Mike Pence on that day. And, also called for the impeachment of Governor Hogan. Then you have Wes Moore, that is a more progressive candidate that has a lot of business experience. And I really don't think that voters are going to have difficulty picking whoever they want between A and B. They're very defined where they're at.
And real quickly, do you think that it hurt Wes Moore at all that Dan Cox kept bringing up that he did not attend the debate at Morgan State University?
I don't really think it hurt him. And the one thing I want to say about debates is this. If you're an incumbent or you're winning, you don't want to do debates. Debates are for losers in this sense. You can only lose a debate. You can't win. And what I mean by it is this. If you say one little thing, it can be taken out of context. And a perfect example is what happened in Virginia last year. Terry McAuliffe made a comment that, parents shouldn't be that involved in education. And before you know it, Glenn Youngkin ran off with it, started talking about critical race theory. And before you know it, it was Governor Youngkin.
Absolutely.
John Dede, again, great wisdom, great insight. We appreciate it, sir, as always.
You're welcome.
Well, today, Governor Larry Hogan announced he has named Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford to oversee the transition of power to the next administration. Rutherford will assist the incoming administration as they settle into the government house. Governor Hogan says Maryland is fully committed to a smooth and orderly transition of power. Here are some key dates to mark down on your calendar. Of course, Election Day is November 8th. Early voting opens October 27th and runs through November 3rd. Mail-in ballot request forms must be received by November 1st. And remember, same-day registration will be available on Election Day with proof of address.
Crisis in the classroom. We're hearing of a Baltimore student who was robbed Tuesday at Kipp Elementary School.
That's right. The student, only 13 years old. Riel Creighton spoke with the family and has the full details.
And he grabbed my arm and I said, "Get off me." And then he grabbed my book bag.
A 13-year-old boy describing his encounter in front of his school.
He tried to tell me to take my watch off and I said no. And the boy came right there and he said, "If you don't take that city off, you're going to die."
Where are you thinking when you hear that?
I was going to die.
Traumatizing to watch. Morshay Powell, the boy's aunt.
If he didn't take that watch off, what could have happened?
Still emotional after she says she saw it all unfold. There for pickup, dismissal at Kipp Elementary and Middle, just in time, she says, to see her nephew robbed of his watch in broad daylight. Her 8-year-old son in tow, also shoved. Outside the school, she says, by two boys wearing ski masks.
I thank God that I was there,
Fiance Larry Wallace also watching and sprang into action.
And I grabbed the young man. I said, "Hey, stop." Basically, I tackled him down.
Wallace says he chased the boys and retrieved the watch within minutes, all inside to inform the school.
No safety.
Tears turned outrage after a conversation with the principal.
He said, mentioned to me that it's nothing they can do because it didn't happen on school grounds. I said, I witnessed it. I watched it happen directly where this child is supposed to dismiss it.
Wednesday, this letter sent to parents saying a student was confronted by several youth across the street. It went on to say who attempted to take his belongings. They're working closely with school police to investigate.
Right here. It was basically right here.
The family showing us the proximity on the sidewalk right next to the field, insisting this was an on-campus robbery. Yet police never called, parents never warned, they say, until a day later after they demanded it from school officials.
You did nothing.
Meantime, but a 13-year-old who still can't shake what happened.
I don't want to come back to this school.
Why don't you want to come back?
Because I don't feel safe.
And that was Riel Creighton reporting. The family says because the school didn't get a description of the suspects that day it happened, they were afraid for other parents and students that thieves could come back.
Happening tonight, Baltimore County parents will be turning up the heat on school administrators to better protect children. And we've seen a number of violent incidents break out across the school system this year. Last week, parents rallied to draw school officials' attention to the situation. Tonight, there will be a virtual town hall for students and parents to discuss safety. It begins at 6 o'clock. If you'd like to attend, we have a link at foxbaltimore.com/newslinks.
Well, coming up, an exclusive interview you will only see on Fox 45 News. Mackenzie Frost sits down with the presumptive next Baltimore City State's Attorney, Ivan Bates. what he is now saying about Marilyn Mosby dropping the case against Adnan Syed.
And the rush hour is going to be potentially wet and messy for the remainder of it. Temperatures in the 60s, some showers and thunderstorms rolling through. I'm tracking them live on our HD radar, hour by hour, minute by minute. My Weather Authority forecast.
Black farmers in America are taking the federal government to court over changes to debt relief programs. And prominent civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who's been working here in Baltimore, is filing a lawsuit on behalf of those farmers. National correspondent Kayla Gassings explains what's at issue in this case.
Well, Congress actually baked relief for these minority farmers into law. As part of the American Rescue Plan Act, farmers then made business decisions based on this relief. And then Congress repealed the law, replacing it with a watered-down version, putting many farmers at risk of losing everything. The government walking back its promise to help minority farmers through debt relief, leaving many in dire straits.
And we pleaded with this administration to stop the farm foreclosures, but instead they're moving swiftly since they repealed this measure. So again, this issue isn't receiving enough attention.
As part of the Inflation Reduction Act passed this August, Congress repealed a controversial portion of the 2021 American Rescue Plan, which set aside $4 billion for minority farmers. The new law broadens relief to include all farmers while also changing important loan specifics, causing some farmers to now owe the government money.
What are the legal grounds of this lawsuit?
It's a breach of contract law based on the fact that you had a valid contract. There was a benefit and there was a detriment, the essential elements of a legally binding contract. And even worse, these farmers relied on the contract that the federal government made with them.
Pandemic-era supply chain issues spurred the initial relief program. The federal government asking farmers to ramp up domestic production.
What kind of big business decisions did some of them make based on what they were essentially asked to do?
Kayla, they went and bought new tractors, they went and bought new feed, they bought new livestock, they tried to answer the bell that the federal government had issued to them, and they relied on the federal government's promise to give them relief.
A broken promise, leaving farmers like Lester Bonner in Dinwiddie, Virginia, at risk of losing the farm that's been in his family for more than 100 years. And only Democrats voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which put black farmers' debt relief in jeopardy, causing many to now owe the government money. Attorney Ben Crump saying the timing of this lawsuit is crucial. He wants congressional candidates on the record so voters know where they stand before casting a ballot on Election Day. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Well, attorney Ben Crump has also joined the lawsuit against Baltimore City Schools. Crump has represented several high-profile clients in the past, including the families of Trayvon Martin and also George Floyd. The suit, led by Baltimore City parents, accuses the city of forcing taxpayers to fund a school system that underperforms and has a history of grade changing and inflated enrollment numbers.
It's about a system that is failing our children who need the education the most. And so I know there's going to be some pushback saying, well, you think this is as important as those issues, those social justice issues? And I think they are.
Well, several of these issues in Baltimore City Schools were originally reported by our Project Baltimore team. You can see their full coverage and all of their reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com/Project Baltimore.
Latest weather maker pulling through. We've got a few showers here and there north of Elkton right now, and then some down around Galena as well as Chestertown. Just a mess of a morning commute, I'll tell you, all that rain coming through. And now some cells are refiring, if you will, all the way from Hanover, Pennsylvania, down to about Emmitsburg and Walkersville. Now just beginning to try to push into northwestern portions of Carroll County. So a couple of these could get a little on the stronger side. Going to have to watch this one right around the Taneytown area, and another couple of cells down south toward Frederick and Middletown that'll be eventually pushing toward Mount Airy. And again, some of these potentially could get a little bit stronger because we have seen a little extra sunshine, especially west of Baltimore this afternoon. As these move east into kind of a cloudier atmosphere, it may be a little bit harder to fire some of these right around 95 and points east. But it is something that we're going to watch closely all the way through about 8 p.m. this evening. That's when our main threat's going to be, with a marginal or a level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather downpours, gusty damaging winds perhaps, and even an outside chance of a spin-up tornado. It's a very low chance, but again, it is something we're tracking. Rain from this morning moving east, a little break, then the stormy weather with that weather maker, the cold front actually slicing into this kind of more humid and somewhat unstable air, especially where we've got a little bit of that sunshine. By tomorrow, that front's east and it's gone. Now, speaking of sunshine, my own Towson showing some of the sun as the sun begins to set, trying to break out. We're actually at one of our warmest points of the day at BWI, where that report comes in. 70 degrees, winds out of the south at 3, and we do have some mugginess and haziness. Temperature at 70 Baltimore, 70 degrees out west toward Westminster, 72 at Frederick. It's this air that could give us some of those storms. Then it turns drier and cooler on the other side of the Appalachian. So good news coming for tomorrow. All right, there is Carl. It's a tropical storm, eventually turns into a tropical depression, and a remnant low could potentially impact places in eastern Mexico with a lot of rain late this week into the weekend. Now, notice those storms kind of evaporating as they pull toward Baltimore, something we're watching extremely closely through the end of the PM commute. Those then pull east after about, say, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, leaves us dry for Friday, dry, warmer Saturday, good-looking day on Sunday, outside chance of a shower for Ravens party, some showers on Monday, much cooler middle of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, parents try to get answers on what will stop violent crime in schools. Looking ahead to a town hall in Baltimore County. Also, trick or treat, the spellbinding tales of Maryland and tours of its haunted history. Those chilling stories coming up next. trending right now, you have the opportunity to learn more about the spooky history of Maryland and its restless spirits. Be More lifestyle host Mark Clark is uncovering those chilling stories in Ellicott City.
So we've been talking about ghost tours and how there's so many of them in Ellicott City. We're at the Howard House, and Ed, you said actually, I called it the haunted house off air. You said, in fact, it is.
It is indeed. Thanks, Mark. Yes, many years ago, there was a young boy named Bobby M. I won't give his full name. When he got home one day, his mother was not happy because he was late getting home. And she said, "Why are you late?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry." He says, "But Dr. Clark stopped us to talk to us as we were coming up," and he was on the porch of the Howard House. His mother reached over and shook him and said, "Don't you lie to me. Dr. Clark died this morning." Even she was a bit surprised because the color drained from Bobby's face, and he almost shook and said, "Honest, he was on the porch and we talked to him."
On this very porch?
Down on the lower level porch.
On the lower level porch. So again, Maryland has so many ghost tours, and people say, well, why? But Ed, it could be the fact that, again, so many funeral homes and so many undertakers and so many wars we were right here in the midst of it, and so that could be it. Whatever the case, it provides great stories and a great opportunity for you and your family to enjoy those ghost tours.
Yeah, we say the town is so popular that some people never leave even when they're dead.
That's right.
You can find information about the tours at mdhistorytours.com. Ellicott City is celebrating its 250th anniversary this year. So we've been here since 1772.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ed. Again, Mark Clark, Fox 45 News.
Some extremely cute landscapers will be put to work at the Wyman Park Dell in North Baltimore on Friday. After a year hiatus, the Goats on the Slope program returns this week with a herd of goats being brought in to kind of manage that vegetation on the BMA slope. Prosperity Acres, that's a farm in Calvert County, will provide the goats in the public-funded project through a GoFundMe campaign. We're happy to see those goats. But coming up, a Fox 45 News exclusive. Fox 45 sits down with presumptive Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, hearing his take on the decision to drop the case against Adnan Syed. And could a decision to slash oil production kickstart a global recession? Now, President Biden is responding to a new economic threat. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We're looking live from the Chevy Storm Tracker. We're following the rain, letting you know what to expect through the rest of the night.
First on Fox tonight, a one-on-one interview with presumptive City State's Attorney Ivan Bates. His thoughts on the decision to drop the case against Adnan Syed.
Plus, one candidate for governor and his plans for a greener Maryland, how Wes Moore's proposed policies could push our state toward electric vehicles.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We have breaking news to report. 3 people were shot in Cherry Hill in South Baltimore. Police say it happened at the shopping complex next to Carter Woodson Elementary. Police also say around 1:30 this afternoon, they found a 23-year-old man who'd been shot in both legs. 2 other people were shot and took themselves to the hospital. Police say all are expected to survive, but there's no word on suspects or what led to the shooting.
Also breaking tonight, a 15-year-old under arrest for a Columbia murder last week. Police responded to an apartment complex just off Hickory Ridge Road on Friday after 8. At the scene, they found 36-year-old Rocky Miguel Jones Onyeka shot in the parking lot. Investigators say the 15-year-old's family had been involved with some kind of dispute with the victim leading up to the shooting. The 15-year-old is being charged as an adult but has not been identified.
Storms are moving across Maryland at this moment, expecting to bring rain tonight.
That's right. Jonathan Myers here with the latest on the storm's path.
Yeah, Kai, Mary, it kind of depends on where you are. You can actually see as we track rain across Maryland on our Chevy Storm Tracker, there's not a whole lot there yet, especially as you go north and west of the city. Skies darken a little bit, but the rain really more so Frederick County, northwestern portions of Carroll County, now just up toward Taneytown, as well as Bruceville, Union Bridge, working our way back 70 out toward Frederick as you're heading towards the Blue Ridge Mountains, and then south into extreme northern Virginia and the panhandle of West Virginia. So that's where the rain is right now. We've had a bit of a break, so hey, I guess this is pretty well timed, just in time for a lot of our afternoon and evening commutes. But that final line is going to come our way, and that's the one that we've been worried about for at least some risk of severe weather, a level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather. So that's a marginal risk through about 8 p.m. this evening. So there could be some downpours, maybe some gusty winds. Outside chance of a spin-up tornado, but I really think the biggest threat here is especially going to be north and west, where we've seen a little bit of sun to kind of destabilize the atmosphere, if you will, and we could see some gusty winds and, again, some heavy rain through about 6 p.m. By about 10 p.m., that's beginning to move out as some rain showers and dries out overnight. I'm going to let you know how much cooler and drier and sunnier it could be tomorrow in my Weather Authority forecast.
First on Fox tonight, in addition to talking about policies and plans to handle Baltimore's squeegee kid problem, the city's likely next top prosecutor, Ivan Bates, spoke about the Adnan Syed case.
It's an exclusive interview with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost. And Mackenzie, this case could end up with Mr. Bates. So what did he say, if he said much at all?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, Mr. Bates is being very careful with his words, especially since we know this case is potentially still open and there are 2 other suspects potentially that could be involved in this case. But what Bates is saying really centers around the Heyman Lee's family's concerns, and those concerns we have been hearing about from their attorney.
But what I can tell you, what I've seen in the press, it doesn't appear that the victim and the victim's family were involved in the process. And that is concerning to me.
And Mackenzie, we have talked previously about the timing of Marilyn Mosby's decision in this case. Some saying it is politically motivated as her federal trial is coming up. Is Ivan Bates wading into that conversation at all?
A little bit, you know, Mary, as we remember that this news of this case coming up in the first place resurfaced when we first learned that Marilyn Mosby's office was looking to vacate Adnan Syed's conviction. That happened the day before Marilyn Mosby's jury selection was slated to begin in her federal trial. And I asked Bates if he thought that there was any possibility that Mosby had other motivations, potentially personal or political motivations, for making these decisions when she did.
I would hope not. Let me say that. Because if it was, then it makes you question the criminal justice system. Because then it's self-serving. And I don't want to have that question of the criminal justice system. I think there are a lot of questions that'll be answered. I think some of those questions will be answered in the future. I'm the guy who believes the glass is half full. I want to believe that Mrs. Mosby would not do that and the state's attorney's office would not do that, because that would be beyond unfair, not only to to the victim's family, but that's really unfair to Mr. Syed, because then he would be labeled with that and he would be caught up in something that he didn't deserve to be a member or part of. So I have to believe no, but I do understand and see the concern, and I've heard that a great deal as well.
You know, Bates said that he understands there's a lot that goes into something like this, and he was quick to point out that he doesn't have all of the information since he's not in that position and that office just yet. But Mary and Kai, there's a lot more to this conversation that took place just a few hours ago, including his plans for prosecution policies and his concerns about the current state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby's prosecution policies and the impact that they have had on the city. You'll hear that in our full story tonight at 10. Live in Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you. Interesting and an important conversation. Thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. What should Ivan Bates' priorities be as he prepares to take office? Gun violence, squeegee kids, cracking down on repeat offenders, or something else? So far, 79% of those who voted say squeegee kids. We still want to hear from all of you. Go to foxbaltimore.com to weigh in. Well, continuing coverage tonight on the violent crime impacting Baltimore and the counties surrounding it.
Keith Daniels is looking into how criminals have become more brazen with their actions and what's allowing them to get away with crimes.
But first, Alexa Ashwell has details on the most recent efforts from Baltimore County Police to gather information on a 14-year-old who was killed last month.
Baltimore County Police say they believe there may be cell phone video that captured the events leading up to or this homicide, and they're asking anyone with it to please come forward. 14-year-old Travis Slaughter was a freshman football player at Milford Mill Academy in Baltimore County. He was shot and killed less than a half mile from the school near the intersection of Washington Avenue and Liberty Road following a Friday night football game on September 2nd. Another juvenile was also shot but survived. Now, two big questions that remain: who did this and why? A few weeks ago, a close family friend said detectives hinted this may have been a random act of violence. Today, the department told me right now they can't confirm that information. Police and the family desperate for answers.
He was so excited about going to high school. He was always very fun, loving and outgoing, just a wonderful spirit. It's very disheartening. To be honest, words can't sum up the way that I feel about this situation.
The family has been pushing for this intersection to be renamed Travis Way as a means to keep both his memory and this case alive. Again, the Baltimore County Police Department requesting any and all cell phone footage that may have captured the events leading up to or this homicide. Metro Crime Stoppers is offering a $2,000 reward in this case. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, from mass shootings happening in neighborhoods to a pregnant woman ambushed to officers attacked in the line of duty, Baltimore has seen examples of crimes taking place in 2022. And tonight we're looking into the nature of these crimes and the struggle to arrest those behind them, even those caught on camera. Keith Daniels has the full story.
Across Baltimore City, images of gun violence caught on camera. The trigger pullers out to kill.
Our young suspects, our suspects in general, they don't care who's around.
Detectives at the Baltimore Police Department need your help.
Police releasing video this week, a suspect in the daytime shooting of a man at a corner store on East Baltimore Street at South Highland Avenue. Look here. The suspect seen clearly wearing a red shirt, then seen on video running into the business, opening fire on the victim, who survived. The shooting happened last month, September 6th. The suspect still on the loose, like many others, caught on camera.
They remain on the loose because we're not turning in our friends, our sons, our nephews, our schoolmates, our students. We know who these are.
Their identities possibly known. Still, they remain free, including those responsible for the mass shooting that happened in Park Heights in August. All of it caught on camera in daylight. The suspects pulled to the corner of Park Heights and Shirley Avenues, jumped out of a silver Lexus, and opened fire on a group of men playing table games, killing one man and wounding 6 others. So far, no arrest.
They're just committing these violent crimes without regard And the responsibility falls on all of us, the police department, the community. We're all one in this, and we all are suffering because of it.
So why do people who know something say nothing? The pervasive so-called stop snitching culture in Baltimore City, oftentimes the blame. As Shakir Muhammad reasons.
It's not that we don't care, but you know, it's best that you just mind your business, man, because you can dig yourself a grave, man, and put yourself in a situation. I mean, that's something different, and you know, and
What do you mean different? Step up then?
Honestly, no, I wouldn't, especially if it has nothing to do with me or mine, and like even if it was dealing with me, like to be honest, yeah, I wouldn't get the police involved.
Still, the plea from police.
Help us figure out who these people are before they strike again.
That was Keith Daniels reporting. Baltimore police tell Fox 45 a suspect caught on camera shooting and killing a man last year in April got away. 4 months later, police say he was arrested for an unrelated attempted murder charge. That suspect is now behind bars. Fox 45 has a tool to help you keep track of crime in your neighborhood. Alert Nest allows you to track crime to your street. Go to the banner on foxbaltimore.com.
Well, a major point of contention during last night's gubernatorial debate, talk of mandating electric cars in Maryland. And while Democratic candidate Wes Moore says he is for transitioning towards electric, Dan Cox says he wants to pump the brakes on the idea. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor live with their heated back and forth plus reaction from drivers. Rebecca.
Yeah, Mary, we got mixed reviews on going electric from Maryland drivers that we spoke with today. Beyond just feeling government overreach, many say that the cost of an electric car is what's really driving them in a different direction. Take a listen.
I just bought this less than a year ago, and the price of gas back then was really high. So I considered buying it, but the cost was about $10,000 to $15,000 or $20,000 more.
Even hybrid is more expensive. I would do hybrid, but more expensive to buy.
Now, according to Kelly Blue Book estimates, the average price of an electric car, $66,000. Another roadblock, ramping up production and revamping the automotive workforce. Charging stations are also limited and sometimes unreliable. However, environmentalists and economists that I talked with today say that the switch would be worth it in the long run. Now back to the debate stage. Here's what Cox claimed about Wes Moore's stance yesterday.
We have a 2035 plan that he supports to tie us similarly to California, which has a plan to ban gasoline cars. That's a problem. It's not going to work for our small businesses.
So to clarify, I spoke with Wes Moore's campaign today. They say that they have no plans on mandating electric cars in Maryland. Rather, he plans to add incentives for going green. You can see his full plan in this story on our website at foxbaltimore.com. Reporting live in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, sources tell Fox 45 News the FBI is getting involved in a Baltimore City Schools payroll investigation. Project Baltimore looking into how a school officer is getting paid double his salary in OT. Parents telling Fox 45 News the fighting in school has to end. What we're expecting from a Baltimore County town hall addressing the recent student violence.
From the Live Center right now, we're learning more tonight after 2 police officers were shot and killed in Connecticut, responding to what happened to be a fake emergency call overnight. Maxine Stryker is here with new information. Maxine?
Okay, tonight the Connecticut State Police say they believe a 911 call was placed in a deliberate act to lure those police officers into an apparent ambush. Now, the call came to the Bristol Police Department Wednesday night, reporting a possible domestic incident. But police say when they arrived, a man dressed in camouflage emerged from the house with a gun and started firing. 2 officers were killed and a third was seriously wounded. The suspect also died and his brother was shot and injured as well. Neighbors described the gunshots they heard on the scene.
It was like a burst of 10 or so gunshots, and then there was another burst. And my husband ran downstairs and looked out the window, and then it went off again. And the sirens were crazy, and it was just like a war zone.
The Connecticut State Police have identified the slain officers as Sergeant Dustin DeMonte and Alex Hamzy, the police chief calling this an act of senseless violence. Kai.
Maxine, thank you. Well, we're dealing with some wet weather today. Storms moving over the state brought heavy rain this morning, and more could be on the way soon. Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here now with what we can expect through the rest of the night. Jonathan?
Had a lot of rain this morning. In fact, I know driving my kids to school, it was downpouring, and still another round of storms is possible, at least for some into this evening, and at least some rain for everybody. Coming through here after about 6, 7 o'clock, I think, in Baltimore. Taneytown getting it now all the way back down to Frederick. We've had a little bit of extra sunshine here with some of this. That's helped to kind of spark things up a little bit. So there still is, at least kind of painted in, a marginal risk of severe weather, a level 1 of 5 risk. Gusty, damaging winds as well as downpours, the biggest threat. There have been some isolated severe weather warnings with some of these out to our west and northwest as they've kind of traversed west of the Appalachians, but still remains yet to be seen if that low chance of severe weather actually does make it here into our neck of the woods, and especially the 95 corridor is going to have a harder time getting it because we're going to be approaching sunset, and of course we've been kind of jammed in clouds a lot of the day, so that's kind of reduced the energy for some of these storms. In any case, that rain, at least that initial big batch this morning, is moving east, and still a couple of scattered showers, maybe a rumble going through this evening. By about just after midnight, that does move east. Drier, much more comfortable air coming back for tomorrow. We're really going to enjoy our Friday, I think. 70 degrees right now, mostly cloudy skies. That's the warmest that we've gotten thus far all day over at BWI. Mile 1 Towson Cam is kind of gloomy. Once again, the clouds have kind of filled in some of those breaks of sunshine. Winds out of the southeast. It's in that dew point. Boy, you can feel it. The measure of moisture in the air, it's high, 66 degrees. So it feels a bit muggy. All you really needed today was some sunshine, and we just have not gotten a whole lot of it. So that's what I think is limiting these late day storms. Right now, it's 70 here in Baltimore, 67 at Cockeysville, 68 at Westminster. The warm spot where some of that more rowdy weather is right around Frederick with 72. Cooler, drier numbers north and west. Those will eventually get here, I think, excuse me, late tonight into tomorrow. Now, Carl, that's a tropical storm. It's down in the southern Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche. Eventually, it looks like that's going to be moving into Mexico as a big rainmaker. And a low chance of development now in the extreme eastern and central portion of the Atlantic in about the next 5 days. So that's something we'll be watching and tracking as we work our way through the mid and late portion of October now. Taking a look at the future scan as we head into the overnight by about 6, 7 o'clock. The rain kind of gives way to more scattered showers. I think the thunderstorms kind of dissipate as they hit that cloudier layer that's been hanging around here around the Beltway and 95. And of course, we lose some of that energy of the sun with sunset as well. Still hanging on to showers, though, through just after midnight. Then that moves east, and it looks like it's probably cooler and drier just in time for tomorrow morning's commute. Mid to upper 40s, 69 Friday, 73 Saturday. Ravens game out of town this weekend, but we could see a spot shower for Ravens parties on Sunday. Few showers on Monday, 65. Coldest day of the season thus far could be coming towards the middle of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, tonight, parents will voice their concern over student safety in school. More on what's happening inside Baltimore County classrooms.
Will the White House punish Saudi Arabia for cutting oil production and hurting America's bottom dollar? And did the White House try to delay any price hikes until after midterm elections? I'm Scott Thuman with a closer look next.
Well, making headlines now, the House committee investigating the January 6 attack votes to subpoena former President Trump. In a hearing today, the committee revealed new material about how much former President Trump knew about the riot, along with information from the panel's recent interviews. The hearing comes less than 1 month before November's midterm elections. It was originally planned for last month, but was delayed because of Hurricane Ian. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court rejects former President Trump's request to get involved in his legal battle with the Justice Department. Trump wanted the court to give permission to a special master to review classified documents taken from his Mar-a-Lago home. The Supreme Court's decision does not impact the Justice Department's ability to review those same classified documents. Well, did the White House ask Saudi Arabia and other nations to hold off on cutting oil production until after the midterm elections? That's in question tonight, as some allege President Biden may have let politics play a role in his dealings with some of the world's largest oil-producing countries. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has the latest developments.
America's relationship with Saudi Arabia has, safe to say, been a thorny one at times, and now even more so with the White House vowing to reevaluate the partnership after the de facto leaders of the OPEC plus oil-producing nations significantly cut exports, further damaging an already fragile U.S. economy.
The Saudi decision is appalling because it reeks of ingratitude. America has done so much for Saudi Arabia. We supply them with 70% of their arms.
American politics now complicating matters. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry stating postponing the OPEC plus decision for a month, according to what has been suggested, would have had negative economic consequences, although hardly proven. Republicans trying to connect dots to accuse President Biden of asking the Saudis to hold off on any oil cuts until after midterm elections.
The Democrats will do anything to try to keep gas from increasing before the election. But remember, he didn't ask the Saudis not to cut production. He only asked them to wait for a month until after the election.
Either way, the decision to scale back production may prove the tipping point for a global economy already on the brink of recession, cautions the International Energy Agency. To punish the Saudis, lawmakers this week here on Capitol Hill trying to fast-track a bill that would immediately stop all arms sales to the Saudis for 1 year.
The Saudis need to come to their senses. They have made a humongous mistake and endangering the world economy as well as exploiting Americans at the pump.
Do you support that legislation?
We're going to react to Saudi Arabia. We will take action.
Exactly what, though, unclear, as the Saudis insist it was a purely fiscal move, that they've had strong U.S. ties for the last 8 decades and hope that will continue for the next 8. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
A Baltimore City Schools police officer racks up more overtime pay than his initial salary. Project Baltimore with word of a federal probe and why the union president calls him a unicorn. Advocates say it is a step toward continuing accountability and keeping water clean. The new agreement on operations at the Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant. A meeting to address the continued fighting in Baltimore County schools, how leaders are responding to parent concerns over student safety.
Strong storms are moving across Maryland.
That's right. Jonathan Myers is in with the latest on the storm's path.
But first, we are taking a live look out on the roads right now with our Chevy Storm Tracker. You can see right now, roads a little damp out there here and there. Even the rush hour traffic, not that bad, but things are changing.
That's right. I see a little clear sky maybe even out there. We'll see. Jonathan's here with the forecast.
Yeah, and you know what? Some of those clearing skies that have been in the picture for us here. Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Well, some of those clearing skies that have been in the picture for us have been adding a little bit of fuel to the fire to get some additional showers going, adding instability to the atmosphere, if you will. Let's go ahead and take a look at the radar close up, and you can see some of those showers that have kind of refired right around Taneytown all the way back down to about Frederick, and also Walkersville down to Green Valley. Let's go ahead and zoom out. That's kind of the end of things. So once we see this stronger line of showers that's out toward Leesburg, again, up north and west of Westminster, that's been kind of on and off, looking like it's trying to get its act together. Once that comes through, it's just going to be some on and off light rain showers, I think, as we head into this evening. Now, the Storm Prediction Center still has us under a level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather, or a marginal risk of severe weather. I just want to put that out there, but I really think we're going to be battling sunset as well as the lack of sunshine that we've seen today to get any of these storms really too strong around here. But it's something we are tracking hour by hour, minute by minute on the Future Scan, and we're going to have that for you in my full Weather Authority forecast coming up in a couple of minutes.
A crisis in Baltimore County classrooms. A town hall is being held tonight to address safety over fighting in class.
That's right. This school year, there have already been a number of violent incidents involving students. The town hall coming just days after a violent encounter caught on camera inside of Lansdowne High School. The video showing multiple groups of students fighting, and at one point, it looks like the principal even gets hit. At Towson High School, 2 women came forward with Snapchat video of a fight between 3 girls.
There have been several incidents at Perry Hall High School. In this video, a girl is seen swinging a bat at classmates. Her family says that she was trying to protect herself from bullies. And last Thursday, the school had to go on lockdown after police broke up a fight behind the school. A student had to be taken to the hospital, and all after-school activities were canceled. Riel Creighton joins us live right now. So, Riel, what can citizens of the county expect from this meeting on safety tonight?
Well, Kai, BCPS says this meeting will specifically focus on the efforts, the work done by school leadership to enhance safety. And we know, as you just talked about, an issue that the school system has been under a lot of pressure for lately as these viral fight videos keep on surfacing over and over again. Take a look. Fox 45 News has literally seen probably dozens of recordings like this. We've talked to parents and students who point to these videos and have claimed that the situation is out of control. Some parents telling us that their children are afraid to go to school because they are so often forced to confront fighting day after day. Many others who say that they've been the victim of bullying and are the targets themselves. The school system has repeatedly told Fox 45 News that they take the issue seriously and have worked on those security enhancements. And tonight, that is exactly what we expect to hear some of that about from school leadership. But this is, again, a virtual town hall meeting.
And Riel, with that in mind, it being a virtual town hall, will people be able to ask questions?
Well, BCPS, as we understand it, has not laid out all of the details of exactly how the meeting will go. But as we understand it, they did ask the public to submit their questions in advance. So it's unclear if it's going to be a live back and forth with parents. But we do expect to get some answers about safety. Reporting live in Baltimore tonight, Riel Creighton, Fox 45 News.
Riel, thank you. Well, safety also concerned for parents of children in Baltimore City schools. A 13-year-old student was robbed this week right outside of the KIPP Academy. During dismissal, he was attacked by 2 boys in ski masks. His aunt and uncle saw it happen. They were able to stop the kids who robbed the student. Baltimore City Schools police confirmed they responded to the incident, but the family of the child says not enough is being done to keep kids safe.
He mentioned to me that there's nothing they can do because it didn't happen on school grounds. I said, I witnessed it. I watched it happen directly where this child is supposed to dismiss it.
Well, specifically, they're concerned with how long it took for the school system to alert other parents about the incident. A letter to parents was not sent out until the day after the incident. The robbery is still under investigation. Well, Fox 45 News is committed to investigating any problems your children run into this school year, from teacher shortages to a lack of bus drivers. Call our news tip line 410-467-5595. You can also send us an email at news@foxbaltimore.com or chime in your pictures and videos on the Fox 45 News app.
In a city in crisis, while conditions have improved inside the Back River wastewater treatment plant in recent months, a new proposal would keep state workers at the city-owned facility until the end of the year. After 3 months of compliance with the plant's discharge into Back River, state oversight at the facility could technically be over. But according to the Maryland Department of Environment, the state and Baltimore City have agreed to an amendment which would allow the Maryland Environmental Service to stay on site for a few more months.
I think that's fantastic. That's what we've been hoping all along. We want to make sure that there's accountability. If the state leaves, we all know what's going to happen. It's very likely that the plant's going to go back into the same disrepair that it was in previously.
Baltimore City's Board of Estimates needs to approve the agreement right now. It's on the agenda for the board meeting next Wednesday. A Baltimore City school police officer is on pace to rack up more than his annual salary in overtime 3 years in a row.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, city schools approved that money, and sources say the FBI took notice.
This begs an investigation. Adam Andrzejewski is the founder of OpenTheBooks.com, a government watchdog organization that tracks public spending. And he believes this could be a prime example of misused tax dollars.
Massive spikes in overtime certainly raise red flags.
So you do periodic hall walks? Lawrence Smith is a Baltimore City school police officer and 7-time state champion head football coach for Dunbar High School. Sources say he's also currently under investigation by the FBI, in part over payroll irregularities. Through a public records request, Project Baltimore obtained this payroll database of Smith's overtime earnings. We can see his overtime hours per paycheck going back to 2019. And what we found is hard to believe. In 2020, Smith earned about $68,000 in overtime, more than his annual salary. We found one paycheck where he logged 116 and a half hours of overtime in 2 weeks. If you average it out, that would mean he worked nearly 8.5 hours of overtime every day for 2 weeks straight. We found between August and September of 2020, Smith recorded 300 hours of overtime over a 6-week period. If you add that to his normal work week, Smith says he was at work on average nearly 13 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 42 straight days, a feat he nearly repeated the following year in 2021, when he logged 297 hours of overtime over a 6-week period between June and July.
To the extent that Lawrence Smith's public employment is for the public good, he should be lauded. What you've outlined here is a troubling pattern.
2021 was a big year for Smith. He made more than any other city school police officer, $30,000 more than the city school's police chief. How did he do it? By bringing home more than $94,000 in overtime. His total earnings that year, nearly $168,000.
That's a tremendous amount for any employee of the Baltimore City Public Schools to be working, just in terms of gross hours.
But Smith didn't always used to work this much overtime. According to city schools, the average school police officer makes about $18,000 a year in overtime. But take a look at this chart. In 2017, 2018, and 2019, Smith earned below the average. But in 2020, his overtime began to skyrocket. So what happened?
What I'll say about Detective Smith is this. He is a unicorn in our police department.
Baltimore City Schools did not provide an explanation for the overtime, but Sergeant Clyde Boatwright, president of the FOP, is not surprised that it's a lot of hours.
He is one of one. He has a responsibility that no one else in our department has.
Boatwright says about 5 years ago, Smith took on more responsibility as a liaison to other police departments.
All right, we got good movement.
He's also the custodian of the camera systems.
So if there's a homicide that occurs near a school, there could be footage where a suspect is seen getting away, a getaway car, a getaway driver, and he is the person that will be looking into those types of situations.
Let's get to the cafeteria.
According to Boatwright, Smith's role requires him to be on call 24 hours a day. And with Baltimore's crime rate, the overtime can add up. It also goes through an approval process with multiple supervisors signing off.
Do you believe there's enough oversight in the overtime system?
Yes, I do.
But when an employee is making far more than his annual salary in overtime, Andrzejewski questions whether it's the best use of public dollars.
Well, it's a misallocation of public resources. For that kind of money, the public could have had an extra resource officer or two.
He says, at the very least, an audit should be conducted.
Why is one person invested with all of this authority, all of this control, and all of this expertise within the Baltimore City Public Schools? Auditors need to take a look at this situation.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Now, Project Baltimore reached out to Lawrence Smith for this story, but we did not hear back.
We believe that every young person deserves a school with state-of-the-art technology that provides classroom and learning spaces designed for a 21st century education, and dare I say, where they have air conditioning and can drink the water.
Well, Baltimore City School and elected leaders announced a plan to renovate 5 Baltimore high schools in 4 buildings that will affect 7,000 students across the city. Now, those 5 schools are City College, Western High, Poly High, Frederick Douglass, and Joseph C. Briscoe Academy. The plan will cost $400 million. That money, by the way, is coming from Maryland's Build to Learn Act, as well as city schools and Baltimore City.
Structural improvements to these large, older buildings are significantly more expensive than renovations in buildings serving the lower grades, and we would not be able to get this critically important job done without these additional funds being provided.
Well, this year, 14 schools in Baltimore did not have air conditioning at the beginning of the year. Some of them are expected to have AC working by the end of this year. Supporters say it could increase accountability and cut back on waste in city government. A closer look at one of the ballot initiatives you'll be voting on in November. And midterm elections are weeks away. A look at where Americans stand on some of the most important issues facing the country. A ballot initiative this November could lead to more accountability for an advisory board that could cut down on government waste. Fox 45's Megan Gillen talked with a taxpayer advocate about the plan.
We continue looking into the many charter amendments that you are going to see on the ballot next month. And today we are diving into Question I, which would change the makeup of the advisory board for the Baltimore City Inspector General. David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance weighing in on what this means for you.
And this is really critical because right now Baltimore City is very lucky because Baltimore City has a really good inspector general, strong, independent. The advisory board, not so much. Not really strong and not independent at all because 6 of the 7 members have been appointed by either the mayor or the city council president. So it's purely political right now, and that has to change.
Why was it originally set up the way it is right now?
So it was set up because this was the best way to do it at the time. They didn't realize that there was going to be such pushback from the board to the inspector general. And this really started in 2021 when Isabel Cumming was investigating Marilyn Mosby and her travel. Well, Nick Mosby gets to appoint a lot of people on the advisory board, and he took exception to this inspector general report, and really she got hammered by them in things that she shouldn't have been asked.
David went on to say that Question I would allow the IG's office to remove waste, fraud, and abuse without question of political meddling. If it's passed, by the way, it would be an 11-member board, 7 of which would be city residents drawn at random from names submitted by the 14 city council members. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Recent polls seem to show Republicans have a slight edge in the fight for the House of Representatives. According to a CNN poll across the country, 50% of people say they would vote for Democrat, while 47% lean Republican. But in competitive districts, Republicans have a 48% of the vote lead, while Republicans have only 43%. I should say Democrats. While it's expected the GOP will win the House, the Senate is largely a toss-up right now. Well, that same poll shows a significant number are unhappy with both candidates in their congressional elections. 41% of respondents say neither candidate running in their district has a good plan to solve the country's problems. Republicans are more likely to be confident in their candidates. 71% of Republicans say they are sure their own party knows what's best for the country, compared to 59% of Democrats. Be sure to check out the Fox 45 voter guide for all of our reporting on the upcoming general election. Head to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote2022. Here are some key dates to mark down on your calendar. November 8th is Election Day. Early voting opens October 27th and runs through November 3rd. Mail-in ballot request forms must be received by November 1st, and same-day registration will be available Election Day with proof of address. We had a beautiful start to the week, but things are kind of soggy today, bringing rain, obviously, and there could be more in the way. Here's meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, and Kai, just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Earlier this morning, I know driving my kids to school, it was not fun. And you see there live on our pictures from the storm tracker, we do have some kind of building clouds.
Okay.
It is humid. You feel that air. We just haven't had a whole lot of sunshine to kind of feed more storms. Right. So that's helped us out.
Yeah,
so
which is a good thing.
That's great news. It doesn't mean that you won't see a little more rain, and we are seeing some of that. This is kind of the final round that may last through just after midnight, right around Walkersville, as well as Thurmont, that is pushing east. We did have some showers that looked like they were trying to get a little more active here, right around West Manheim and also Westminster. But for the most part, those have kind of dried up. And then there's that last kind of round that is west of that. That's probably, again, going to kind of spread out into some more shower activity through about midnight tonight. Still, we're under a marginal or a level 1 of 5 risk of severe weather across the entire area. But we just have not been able to kind of muster what we call the, at least in the weather world, the instability to get the showers and thunderstorms going. In other words, really the energy from the sunshine, because it's been so cloudy today. Now you see the rain that's moving to the east. There is that next weather maker that's beginning to make the cross, moving through the area. Should make a final push, I think, this evening. That should cut showers off. Any thunderstorm chances will be gone by tomorrow morning, and it will be turning cooler and drier, at least for the morning tomorrow. And it will be drier tomorrow afternoon, but sunshine will pump temperatures back up to about 70. Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam right now, kind of a gloomy shot, but we have some breaks in the clouds as the sun is beginning to set. Winds out of the east-southeast at about 3 miles an hour. Humidity 93%. Dew points, that's the measure of moisture in the air, in the low 60s. So it is a little bit muggy, has been more muggy today. The temperatures rain cooled here at Frederick at 63. Everybody else in the mid to upper 60s. We did edge our way up to about 70 degrees today here in Baltimore. You hop up and over the Appalachians. This is the other side of that cold front, and it is drier air. Temperatures only in the 50s up toward Pittsburgh and Cleveland. And it's the drier part of that air that gets here tomorrow, but it will still be pretty pleasant temperature-wise. Now, down in the tropics, there's only one named storm, Carl, that is down in the southern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, down towards the Bay of Campeche. Eventually probably ends up in Mexico as a big rainmaker late this week into this weekend. And then there's also a 20% chance of development now over about the next 5 days. That is in the eastern Atlantic, but we have a long time to watch that one. Around here, again, by about 7 p.m., those showers and thunderstorms, as we lose any heating from the sun, kind of just dissipate into showers, and then just on and off showers through about 10, maybe 11 o'clock tonight. After midnight, those should taper and move east, and drier air sets up into tomorrow morning. In terms of additional rain totals, maybe about 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch of rain, and that should be about it. 49 degrees, that's late tonight. Cooler and drier late tonight as well. Showers and storms end just after midnight. 70, still mild tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Good looking day on Saturday as well. 73, 71. Maybe a stray spot shower on Sunday. Another cold front with showers on Monday. And look at that. Bottom falls out into the middle of next week.
Stepping off that sidewalk going in and out of traffic is illegal. And as far as I'm concerned, we cannot do that.
The next top prosecutor for Baltimore City is vowing to enforce laws on the books, including clearing the corners of squeegee kids. Coming up at 6 o'clock, our exclusive sit-down with Ivan Bates. While Ronnie Stanley's season debut was short-lived, his progress left his offensive coordinator impressed. More coming up in Sports Unlimited.
Sunday night, Ronnie Stanley did something he hadn't done since week 1 of last year. That's suit up and play for the Ravens on game day. But it was a different kind of scenario for Stanley against the Bengals. Before his ankle injury, he was an all-pro, playing virtually every snap. Sunday night, he rotated in and out with Pat McCary, playing just 34% of the snaps. But it's progress. He's back on the field, and despite the pitch count, Greg Roman has liked what he's seen so far.
He looks just like he did right before, that unfortunate injury. So, and he's coming along. He'll obviously play more. I'm not going to give you the snap count number, but he's going to play more. And we just hope he can continue to trend in that direction. He's a very talented guy, very valuable to us. It can kind of change the way we leverage things a little bit when he's playing.
So just 5 games into 2022, and Morgan State football has already matched its win total from a season ago. The Bears are competing, and now on national TV, they look to bounce back from a bit of a slip-up last week. After falling to winless Norfolk State, the Bears hit the road for some Thursday night football. Morgan State will take on 4-1 NC Central in a huge conference matchup. Kickoff between the two teams, that's scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Coming up tonight, Mike McDonald's reaction to getting Tyus Bowser and David Ojabo back, plus how the third time is a charm for Patrick Queen.
All right, Rocco, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, a 15-year-old is accused of shooting and killing a man in Colombia. What court documents reveal about a possible motive. And an exclusive interview you'll see first on Fox tonight. Our conversation with Ivan Bates as he prepares to occupy the office of City State's Attorney.
Because at the end of the day, we have to hold people accountable.
First on Fox, an exclusive interview with the presumptive next top prosecutor in Baltimore. How Ivan Bates plans to tackle what he feels are the city's most important issues. 6 weeks since the death of a high school football player and still no answers. Why Baltimore County Police hope the public can bring them closer to a suspect.
And rain and even some thunderstorms trying to form out to our west and head our way. I'm going to let you know if they're going to make it by the end of the commute and into your evening plans. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Gun violence once again pierces Baltimore as we are learning 3 people have been shot outside a convenience store. The shooting happened around 1:30 this afternoon near the shopping complex by Carter Woodson Elementary School. Baltimore police say they found a 23-year-old man shot in both legs, along with 2 other victims who were sent to the hospital. A nearby store employee described the chaos, saying one of the victims ran into his store for help.
I just seen him running in and he said, somebody help me, I got shot. And I thought it was fake at first. I'm like, really? And then he started collapsing, and that's when I knew it was real. And then my other employee went to go proceed to lock the door so we won't get hurt. So that's basically all that I saw, and he just collapsed it right there. And then from there, we just started, all of my employees just came up to help him.
Well, that's incredible. Police have not released any information on a motive nor possible suspects. Baltimore City Police also investigating a deadly shooting overnight in West Baltimore. A 27-year-old shot and killed along Woodbrook Avenue just before 5 a.m. Today's death marked 264 homicides in the city this year. And new tonight, we are learning a 15-year-old has been arrested for murder last week in Columbia. He allegedly shot a 36-year-old man in an apartment parking lot. Police say the suspect and the victim's family had been in some sort of dispute before the shooting. The 15-year-old is being charged as an adult, but has not yet been identified publicly. Well, it is a story you're seeing first on Fox, an exclusive interview with Ivan Bates as he runs unopposed to be Baltimore's next city state's attorney. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. And Mackenzie, let's begin with Baltimore's squeegee crisis. How is Bates planning to address that when he takes office?
Well, he says, Mary, that he does have a plan, but right now we have to wait and see what the mayor decides to do once we learn more from the Squeegee Collaborative. We know, Mary, that the mayor says he is working on that plan, but right now that does not include clearing these squeegee kids from the corner, right? And I asked Bates if he sees that differently. He says yes, and he also says that something needs to be done because it's dangerous for everyone involved.
They can't be there. It's not safe for the squeegee workers. It's not safe for the citizens. And that's why, I think so many of us are looking at the mayor and the mayor's office to do that. Once again, my job is to enforce the law. Stepping off that sidewalk, going in and out of traffic is illegal. And as far as I'm concerned, we cannot do that.
And, the mayor says that he believes that the squeegee kids are doing squeegeeing activity, which he says is protected by First Amendment protected speech, thanks to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling. I asked Bates if he agrees with that decision and interpretation of the law comes from the city's law department. And Bates says that's not how he sees it. Does that mean you disagree with the mayor's law department's interpretation of the law, that what they're doing is protected free speech because they say that that's panhandling?
I understand, however, on the law, I disagree. One of the things when I look at the law and I read the Supreme Court case and I recognize you have to look at the facts and apply them differently. To me, there's a difference of panhandling, holding a sign very quietly in an area, not going in and out of traffic. Right. Going in and out of traffic is an action. Therefore, I believe that action is illegal. I've done the legal research from my standpoint, and I feel good about where we are. I do recognize there's some questions about issuing citations underneath of 18. I get that, but I still think there are a number of ways we can still enforce the law because at the end of the day, we have to hold people accountable.
This is clearly an issue where Bates and Mayor Brandon Scott do not see eye to eye on how to handle this situation. But Bates says that he's willing to wait and see what recommendations come out of the Squeegee Collaborative, which we know Bates has a representative involved in that process and those conversations. But if the mayor doesn't change his stance and tells the police commissioner to tell officers to go out and enforce the laws, there's not much that Bates can do unless those policies change. Our conversation was wide-ranging. We talked a lot about the prosecution policies in Baltimore City right now, squeegee kids, as well as rebuilding the office and relationships with other leaders. You'll hear more about that coming up tonight at 10. Live in Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, we had some beautiful weather earlier this week and gave way to some dreary conditions today. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers here now tracking the latest round of storms. Jonathan?
Yeah, and really they're more so showers at this point, but let's go ahead and track them for you. You can see again some rain from Union Bridge down to Walkersville and Frederick. Then Academy Acres, as well as up to Westminster, we've got some a little more rowdy looking showers, but nonetheless, it's just kind of downpours. And then there's another round that's kind of decaying here across the Eastern Shore that actually helped us out by adding in some cloud cover midday and into the early to mid afternoon. That really helped us get rid of the sunshine that would have possibly lent to some severe weather. We still have painted in a marginal risk of severe weather for our entire area into the early evening. But, you know, as the hours kind of tick by and tick on, the risks of those showers and stronger storms kind of, well, maybe not the showers, but at least the stronger storms, those risks kind of drop off. We'll still see some on and off rain, I think, though, through about 7 p.m., 10 p.m., and maybe even about midnight, 1 a.m. before things begin to dry out into early tomorrow morning. By about 7 a.m., it's 49 degrees with some partial sun. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to let you know how long we're going to hold on to this drier weather and when the next weather maker could give us a shower during the weekend. My Weather Authority forecast.
Baltimore County schools are about to start a virtual meeting to talk about safety and supportive environments in schools. Fox 45's Riel Creighton is following this story. She'll have a live report coming up tonight at 10. Well, tonight's meeting comes amid a series of violent attacks across Maryland schools already this school year. A football player shot and killed at Milford Mill Academy in Baltimore County in September. In Baltimore City, a student killed at Mervo High School during dismissal in early September. And just last night, a 13-year-old boy shared his story with Fox 45 News, saying he was mugged outside a Baltimore City school.
And he grabbed my arm and I said, "Get off me." And then he grabbed my book bag. He tried to tell me to take my watch off, and I said no. And the boy came right there, and he said, "If you don't take that city off, you're going to die."
What are you thinking when you hear that?
I was going to die.
Well, it happened outside Kipp Academy. The boy's aunt says her 8-year-old son was also assaulted. The young suspects tried to run away with a watch before the boy's uncle chased them down. And police are now asking for the public's help in solving the murder of that Milford Mill football player. It has been 6 weeks since the 14-year-old was gunned down. Alexa Ashwell explains where that investigation stands.
Baltimore County police say they believe there may be cell phone video that captured the events leading up to or this homicide, and they're asking anyone with it to please come forward. 14-year-old Travis Slaughter was a freshman football player at Milford Mill Academy in Baltimore County. He was shot and killed less than a half mile from the school near the intersection of Washington Avenue and Liberty Road following a Friday night football game on September 2nd. Another juvenile was also shot but survived. Now, two big questions that remain: who did this and why? A few weeks ago, a close family friend said detectives hinted this may have been a random act of violence. Today, the department told me right now they can't confirm that information. Police and the family desperate for answers.
He was so excited about going to high school. He was always very fun, loving and outgoing, just a wonderful spirit. It's very disheartening. To be honest, words can't sum up the way that I feel about this situation.
The family has been pushing for this intersection to be renamed Travis Way as a means to keep both his memory and this case alive. Again, the Baltimore County Police Department requesting any and all cell phone footage that may have captured the events leading up to or this homicide. Metro Crime Stoppers is offering a $2,000 reward in this case. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Parkland, Florida shooter Nicholas Cruz will not receive the death penalty for his role in the 2018 massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Cruz, a former student at the school, was convicted of 17 counts of murder, but a jury is considering other factors. Cruz's defense attorneys say trouble in his home and his mother's drug use during pregnancy were sources for mental illness. Families of the victims say the court system failed.
I'm disgusted with our legal system. I'm disgusted with those jurors.
There are 17 victims that did not receive justice today.
Well, if a death penalty verdict had been reached, the defense would have been able to appeal.
Kai, thank you. And here's our look at today's top trending stories. Number one, the Baltimore Running Festival returns this Saturday. Mayor Brandon Scott was on hand at a luncheon to explain its impact on the city, along with other major sporting events like the Preakness and the Baltimore Cycling Classic.
The Running Festival is yet another example of being able to host a great sporting event here in Baltimore. But unlike those events, the Baltimore Running Festival is something which people from all walks of life can participate in, and running is obviously a great way to get in and stay in shape.
The marathon and 10K both start at 8 a.m. Saturday. The 5K gets underway at 7:30. Several streets along the racecourse will be closed throughout the morning and afternoon. A full interactive map of the course and closures is available at thebaltimoremarathon.com. Number 2, Maryland Comptroller Peter Franchot extending tax deadlines for anybody filing in Maryland and impacting by this hurricane season. Franchot says the extension applies to any victims who file non-resident in Maryland and currently live in Florida, the Carolinas, or Puerto Rico. The new deadline will be February 15th of next year. Number 3, Mayor Scott announces a $400 million initiative to renovate 5 Baltimore City high schools. Here are the 5 schools. The city plans on fixing issues like air conditioning and water accessibility in these schools, many of which are older buildings. The money is coming from Maryland's Build to Learn Act. Well, still ahead, former President Trump ordered to testify in front of the January 6th committee. We go live to Capitol Hill as the committee unveils new findings from the Capitol riots.
I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. Age is more than just a number to millions of Americans, especially when it comes to elected leaders. We'll have that story coming up.
Now, a Fox 45 News Alert in 3, 2, 1.
Let's go live to Capitol Hill right now in Washington, D.C., as former President Trump has been subpoenaed to testify for his role in the Capitol riots. Well, the committee has been trying to connect the events of January 6, 2021 to the former president, and now they want to hear from Trump himself. Members presented new evidence at today's hearing, saying Trump privately admitted to losing the 2020 election, but did the exact opposite in public.
The need for this committee to hear from Donald Trump goes beyond our fact-finding. This is a question about accountability to the American people. He must be accountable.
We are obligated to seek answers directly from the man who set this all in motion. And every American is entitled to those answers, so we can act now to protect our republic.
Former President Trump released a statement responding to the committee, asking why he wasn't called to testify months ago. He says the committee is only dividing America further.
Well, how old is too old to hold public office? Americans may have a number in mind. National correspondent Angela Brown explains why a growing number of voters are supporting age caps and term limits.
A new report says over a quarter of Congress is over the age of 70, the highest percentage ever. At the same time, the Census Bureau says the median age in America is around 38 years old. President Biden, 79. Speaker Nancy Pelosi, 82. Former President Donald Trump teasing a presidential run, 76. Not to mention nearly 1 in 4 members of Congress are in their 70s or 80s. Older politicians setting policies for the next generation, like James Williams.
It makes it harder for policy to change to reflect current values or current needs.
A new Insider Morning Consult poll finds that Americans think the government is too old, with 75% of respondents in favor of age caps for Congress. Eli Yoakley, senior political reporter, Morning Consult.
Across the Congress, across the presidency, across the Supreme Court, there's pretty wide public support for age limits. And yeah, there's not really much difference between older folks and younger folks. There's not much difference between Democrats and Republicans.
Respondents also supporting physical and mental examinations for top federal leaders. 84% favor an assessment for the president. 81% for Congress. Since the 90s, the organization U.S. Term Limits has been pushing for just that, term limits.
Well, if you only know that you only have so many terms or so many years to be there, you are far more motivated to say, you know what, like I'm going to make a bold stand here and actually do something that I might personally get blowback from.
A recent poll by CBS YouGov also found nearly 3/4 of American adults favor age limits for elected officials. And when asked what age that should be, 70 came in number 1. James agrees.
It'd be nice to see a lot of younger people or a lot of people I can identify with, which government's starting to move that way, but it's a slow process.
Congress is getting older in the last few decades. In 1990, the average age in Congress was roughly 53 years old. By 2020, close to 61 years old, according to the Insider. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C.
Fox Triplecast this evening showing some gloomy skies on our Mile 1000 cam and also the Toyota HD Inner Harbor Sky Cam. And that's all due to our latest weather maker moving in on the HD radar with some, at least for now, scattered showers. You can see him here all the way from Walkersville to Thurmont and then even Carroll County right around Eldersburg and also Westminster. You're getting a couple of these as well. And it looks like we'll be dealing with the potential of a shower or two as we head into the evening hours, all the way through about midnight, a shower, maybe a rumble. There's still a marginal risk of severe weather that's painted in across the entire area by the Storms Prediction Center. But that's really going to kind of run out as we head toward, absolute sunset once we lose any energy from daytime heating, which is going to be happening soon. So this cold front's kind of running out of time to produce severe weather at this point. But I do think that we'll see some scattered showers. An embedded rumble of thunder into this evening is not out of the question. And then after about midnight, our cold front fully pulls through. And that's going to bring us some drier weather, take the rain, pull it up into New England, and give us a really nice day for tomorrow and actually lead us into a pretty good-looking weekend. Toyota HD Inner Harbor Skycam right now at 68. Still looking gloomy here in the background over the Inner Harbor, but we do have some partial sun reported at the airport. Winds out of the northeast at 3, and our dew point or measure moisture in the air back up to 66. So it is kind of sticky out. Once you get into that 65 to 70 range, you do feel the air a bit. It will turn drier markedly overnight. Temperatures generally kind of hanging around 78 sunny except west, where we've seen a few more showers right around Frederick. We're in the low 60s. You hop over the Appalachians. These temperatures in the 50s, they are due to that cold front that's coming through. And we will see maybe not so much cooler temperatures for tomorrow, but drier weather. Eventually, cooler weather does get here for next week. Now, Carl, that is a tropical storm, eventually becoming likely a tropical depression as it makes its way towards the Mexican coastline, not too far from the Yucatan. Could be a big rain producer down there into the weekend. And then there is about a 20% chance of development that's out east in the Atlantic Ocean. That, too, is going to take a long time to develop if it does. Now, around here, again, by about 7 p.m., we're starting to lose the yellows and the reds and the oranges. That's because, again, we lose that energy of any of the kind of weakening sunshine. And then overnight into early tomorrow morning, wee hours, by about midnight, say 2, 3 a.m., those showers and storms, those start moving east. And I think it looks like it's going to be a dry start finally for tomorrow morning. In terms of any additional rain, maybe up to about 1/4 inch. Tonight, rain, any perhaps thunderstorms, those should end just after midnight. 74 tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Good looking day. Got your full 10-day forecast exclusive in just a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Fall is naturally known for foliage, but it's also a foggy season. A viewer chimed in with this photo from Cambria County, Pennsylvania at sunset earlier this week. Some fog was already forming over the lake. And speaking of foliage, here's pets and fall colors. 2 of our meteorologist doggos are living the life outdoors.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Many American cities are trying to be technologically smarter, a movement that begins with youth education. Chelsea Torres from our Sinclair sister station in San Antonio explains a unique effort to bring innovation to the classroom.
You just have to press 2 buttons and boom, you can
water it already.
Technology has changed the farming game for 9-year-olds Mia Aceves and Zoe Collins.
Like when you're away and you're on like vacation or something, you could easily just water your plants even though you have the iPad with you.
It's called a smart farm at the Young Women's Leadership Academy, an SAISD all-choice school where girls have learned how to farm for food, but using technology to guide them along the way.
Essentially a community farm that's laid with all kinds of sensors and technologies so that these young women can learn skills like coding, but also practical skills like farming.
All our plants are getting watered.
San Antonio's Smart City Administrator, Emily Royal, want people to share their ideas on how data and technology can help everyone's quality of life, like using a quick data-based irrigation system for access to healthy food.
To putting sensors on streetlights to collect data about temperature and air quality.
But with technology, there's a cost, right?
Our Smart Cities team, the majority of the work that we do is through no-cost pilots. So our goal is to work first with residents, understand real needs, and then we try to pilot solutions before the city makes any major investments.
The goal is to find real technological solutions to real-world problems.
So then you could just press a button and then all the water comes there for you, so you won't have to carry all those big loads of it.
Exclusive 10-day forecast. Well, today's rain brings some really nice weather tomorrow. 70 degrees, 73 on Saturday for the Ravens game, at least locally. The Ravens game's not at home, but for Ravens parties and gatherings will be 70. Just a stray shower on Sunday. Better chance of some on and off light showers on Monday, 65. Coldest day of the season thus far. Tuesday, Wednesday, some sprinkles, some indications. This stuff coming off the Great Lakes could even include a flurry or some grumple, some soft hail. If we can drag down some of that cold air upstairs in the atmosphere with highs only in the 50s there, and then milder as we wrap up the week into the weekend.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, finally tonight, an inspiring act of heroism from a volunteer firefighter and an expectant mother. Megan Warfield is a member of the Bowley's Quarters Fire Department. She was recently in a car accident and immediately stepped in to help somebody trapped by an overturned car. She stayed on the scene to give first aid, and less than a day later, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She was 9 months pregnant when she was helping others in this accident. Her husband, Josh, gave an update saying both mom and baby are healthy. Megan is ready to be back in the field doing what she loves, but she is a mom of 3, and she needs to have a little time off as well. That's all for Fox 45 News. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Good night.